Hey everybody, I just want to let you know that I'm alive and well, and life's been kind of crazy the couple past weeks, months, years, but I've kind of had to keep my circle really small for the past couple weeks just because I'm going through a lot and it's hard and it's my cross to bear. It's the thing that God has put in my life to deal with, and I don't want to bring a lot of people into it. I'm so thankful to God for a strong family and the friends that God has put in my life to be there for me at this time. I just wanted to share that my heart and my prayer is that the church would stay strong, that y'all would stick together, because the church is God's people. It's not a man, it's not a person, it's not me, it's God's people, the bride of Christ. And there's a lot of really good people in the church that that I just hope would continue on, press toward the calling, run your race, stay encouraged, stay in your word, keep worshiping. Like I can't wait to worship again with everybody. But for now, I'm just worshiping with me and Jesus to God. And I don't think God would be pleased with me if I just jumped right into missions and women's events and creative directing and worship leading and stuff. I think when your world is shook up, you need to take a pause. And I can only pray that more people will take a pause and I'm trying to get my priorities straight right now. And that's making sure that my heart doesn't have any unforgiveness, bitterness, resentment, just forgiveness and hope for the future and peace. Because you can't put a price on peace from God. So thank you for all your prayers and support. Know that I have to keep my circle really, really small right now. I'm used to having a really big circle, so it's hard because I want to reach out to everybody and tell you how much I love you and I miss you. But this is the best way that I know how. So I love you all. I miss you. Thank you for your love and support over the last couple years. And some of you, up to 18 years walking with me as my friends. And for right now, I've just had to put everything on pause to get myself right. And I think God's happy with that. So keep praying for me. Thank you. And I love you. I'll be praying for you. God bless you. Bye.
We're not going to do an altar call today. Instead, I'm going to have you stand up and I'm going to make an announcement. And after the announcement, I'm going to ask that you leave church quietly and don't talk about the announcement here in the building, please, if you can, so y'all can stand to your feet. Before I make the announcement, I also want to say that my request to you is that you will continue to come to church and serve and give for the next little bit, because I don't want to I'm taking a little bit of a break, and I don't want to have to worry about the church. My break may be a few days, a few weeks, I don't know. I got a call late last night. My wife has passed away. And it was self-induced, and it was up in North Carolina. And we're going to have a funeral for her next Sunday here at 3 p.m. And so it's all I can, I'm just kind of going on adrenaline right now. So y'all pray for me and my kids and everybody. And y'all knew that she wasn't well mentally, and that she needed her medicine that was hard to get to her. And so I'm sure there'll be more details to come, but just keep our family in your prayers. And I'm going to let Pastor Randall, my bishop, he can pray. I'll get him a microphone, he'll pray out. And if you have anything you want to share as well, I appreciate it.
Well, welcome to the channel, everyone. That was a little bit of a different intro from what I would normally do. Today, obviously, we're talking about this woman here, 30-year-old Micah Miller. Mrs. Miller had been in it sounded like about a 2-year battle where she was struggling with her relationship with her husband. And that husband is a man named John Paul Miller. He went by JP. He's a pastor at their church, which I have some photos of. Let's see if I can find this here real quick too. There we go. That is Pastor Miller, JP Miller. Apparently, Micah and JP had been having some marital issues for quite a while, and the story goes that she had just filed some paperwork in their divorce and and then was found shot in the head. This is a heartbreaking story. I want to be careful with it though, because everything about this seems suspicious, and it's definitely suspicious to me. But if I learned anything in my coverage over the last year, I think the biggest learning opportunity for me over the last year was the Grace Holland case, where I went into it honestly believing that because of the abuse that was happening within her home with her fiance, that she did not commit her own death. But after having looked at it more closely and looked at the investigative files and so forth, I now believe that she did. That doesn't mean that I don't think that he was abusive. His name was Robert Dawes. I think he was terribly abusive. Definitely led to her death. But anyway, I just want to be very careful on this one. I want to be measured. I want to go through everything that we know and try to, ironically, since we're talking about people who definitely Micah had deep Christian faith in God. On the surface, JP appears to have deep Christian faith in God. So ironically, I want to extend a little grace here and maybe not jump the gun, but I am suspicious. This is a suspicious death for sure, 100%. So where I'm going to start today is I'm going to show you one more video. I'm actually going to show you 2 videos. And then we're going to jump into some of the news stories and some of the coverage to see what it is that we can find out. Okay. So let's begin with a video again from Micah. The first video that we saw, she recorded on March 18th. She ended up dying on April 27th. This video that I'm going to show you is from March 22nd. Again, this is Micah on a Facebook video. I don't know if it was live or not when she did it, but here is Micah in her own words.
So today my heart's a little heavy. I've had a lot of women that have reached out to me about situations of abuse. And
now again, this is 4 days after the previous video where she was just telling people how much she loved them. She was trying to find forgiveness in her heart. She was trying to move along. We know that sometime in the last little bit of her life, she was rebaptized, saying that the first baptism she didn't have happy memories of. So anyway, let me start this over one more time, and then I won't interrupt.
So today my heart's a little heavy. I've had a lot of women that have reached out to me about situations of abuse. And I just want to tell you what a lot of people have told me. lately and reminded me, because I think I forgot. I knew, but I pushed it in the back of my head, just because of my situation. But you are the bride of Christ. Before anybody else's bride, male or female, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what gender you are. Abuse is abuse. And you are the bride of Christ. And my Bible says that he took all the abuse you could think of for you so that you didn't have to live that life of slavery and bondage and pain. Jesus took it all for you. So you don't have to stay in a abusive relationship, whether that's sexual, whether that's somebody forcing you to take illegal drugs, or alcohol abuse, or physical abuse, psychological abuse, making you think that this is all your fault, or you're a bad mom, or you're a bad wife, or you're a bad husband, or you're not giving it your all when you know you are. God hates divorce, but why? According to everybody I've asked and the scriptures that I've found, it's because it hurts people. But does abuse hurt people? How do you think God feels about that? So, I want to remind you, like a bunch of people have been reminding me lately, that I'm God's bride first. And even an earthly spouse who's a good spouse, when they know that their bride is being hurt, just imagine what an earthly spouse does. What do you think your heavenly spouse does when you're the bride of Christ and he sees his bride going through abuse and hurt? What do you think he thinks about that? So, encouragement in all this is, you are the bride of Christ first, before anybody else's. And he's got you. And he sees you. And he loves you.
Okay, this is obviously somebody with deep Christian faith. It's somebody with attributes that I admire. I sometimes wish that people would be less cryptic about things, especially in cases like this, because to me it does appear that she is talking about abuse that she has suffered, but she's not willing to say, hey, I have suffered it, and this is the person who has done it to me. I mean, I think we can all read between the lines. I just wish people would be less cryptic. I understand why they are. I just, man, in situations like this where somebody is dead, I really wish that there was more clarity in the I just wish there was more clarity. Before I show you the second video, why don't we hop into this article? I found this in the New York Post. Okay, this was published yesterday, and this article does a pretty darn good job of summarizing the case. Now, remember the video that we watched in the beginning here, this one right here.
We're not going to do an altar call today. Instead, I'm going to have you stand up, and I'm going to make an announcement. And,
yeah, so this is where
I'm going to ask that you
Mike it.
leave church quietly and don't talk about the announcement.
He had just finished like an hour-long sermon.
Stand to your feet.
It went off without a hitch, as far as I can.
Before I make the announcement, I also want to say that
I mean,
my
you can
request to
see
you
the
is that you will
shock
continue to come to church
in
and
people's
serve and
faces.
give,
There's a woman up
for
stage
the next,
with
little
her
bit, 'cause I
hands.
don't want to have, I'm taking a little bit of a break.
Over-
I don't want to have to worry about
Watch
church.
this.
My break may be a
And
few
it's
days, a few
happening.
weeks, I don't know. I got a
But
call
keep in
last
mind that
night.
he
My
had
wife has passed
just
away.
given an entire
Yeah,
sermon,
and it was self-induced.
never
She
giving
was
away that he
North
was in
Carolina.
mourning over
And
the
we're
death
gonna have a
of his
funeral for her next Sunday here.
Look at this woman over here on the left-hand side with her hands aghast. She's aghast with her hands over her mouth, right? Like, these are the kinds of things, like, I don't know why somebody, having known that their wife died the previous day, would, even as a preacher, would go and do that. But anyway, let's come over here. It's just suspicious behavior, right? And let's read this story. It's not very long. Okay, a South Carolina pastor claimed his wife, I think that's supposed to say died, of this Saturday, 6 months after she filed for divorce, as her family pleaded for police to deeply investigate the sudden death. Micah Miller, 30, was found to have suffered a fatal gunshot to the head at Lumber River State Park in Lumberton, North Carolina, according to local newspaper The Robesonian. By the way, that link is dead. There's now a 404 error on that. So, and this is something that is happening in this case, guys, that as there is more scrutiny on the case, things are disappearing from the internet. Specifically, that article that was just mentioned in the New York Post, but this is, let me get over to it here real quick. This is supposedly a video of their 2017 marriage, the marriage of J.P. Miller and Micah Miller. And then if we go over to, I'm going to have to find it. Give me just a second here real quick. Sorry, give me a second. The Solid Rock Church. There it is. I closed a tab before. Yeah, Solid Rock Church. Solid Rock Market Commons is what it's called. Give me a second. I accidentally closed the tab. You know what? Solid Rock Market Commons. Here we go. This will make it easier for me. Thanks for your patience on this, guys. But there we go. Okay, going back over here. You can see that not only have there been things that have been deleted, but they're also making it so that people can't comment. They're probably getting a lot of comments from folks around the internet now that some of the details of this case are coming forward. Getting back over here. All right, Miller's husband, John Paul Miller, known as JP, is the pastor at Solid Rock Church in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, who broke the news of her death, which we saw in the video, during a recent service after asking his congregation not to discuss it inside the church, which is so weird. Oh my goodness. I got a call late last night. My wife has passed away. It was self-induced, and it was up in North Carolina. Okay. Nobody except JP has said that it is self-induced. He is the only one who has said that aloud. That I can find anyway. Miller said before sharing the details for her planned memorial service. The memorial service is planned for tomorrow, or at least it was, according to our obituary, which we're going to get to. Says, y'all pray for me and my kids and everybody. Y'all knew she wasn't well mentally, and she needed medicine that was hard to get to her. So, he's already starting to make excuses, right? That she wasn't mentally well, blah, blah, blah. I'm sure there will be more details to come, but keep her family in your prayers. Friends of the pastor's late second wife were taken aback over Micah Miller's death and urged officials to look into it deeply. This has to be at least looked into deeply. There's got to be some accountability here, Ken Young told WPDE. And I've actually got a clip that's the next clip that I want to show you from that report. Because, a tragic life was lost, and it's not just as simple as mental health issues. Micah Miller's death comes as the Robeson County Sheriff's Office opens an investigation into the April 27th shooting. Quote, officers are in the process of gathering information from people in South and North Carolina as part of their investigation into how Miller died, Major Damian McLean told the outlet from the Robeson County Sheriff's Office. Just so you guys can see here, let me come over to this tab right here. This is Lumber River State Park up in North Carolina. This is a map of where the church is down here in Myrtle Beach. Talk about freaking real estate. Look at that. Right on Myrtle Beach State Park sits this little church called Solid Rock at Market Common. This is the church right here. So they're right, I mean, they're so close to the beach. What is that? It can't be far. It's hard to tell on the maps. But then her body was found 72.8 miles north up here in Lumber River State Park. And apparently he said, I got a call early in the morning. Now, this guy's got to be careful about the things that he shares, man, because that kind of stuff, they're going to look into him to see where he was, what call he got. And if he got a call, where was he when he got the call? That is, this is so suspicious, guys. Okay, going back to Acrobat, McLean revealed that there was no indication of the community being in danger. I think that is an indication that they believed that this was self-induced, to use the pastor's words. Quote, she struggled with this before. Each time we would help her through it and take her to the doctor, and we got through it and everything was fine. She even you know what? Let me just show you this one. Okay.
She was probably the greatest wife anyone could ask for. She was incredibly affirming. We spent every night together for hours just talking and talking and talking. She had struggled with before, and each time, helped her through it, took her to her doctor, and we got through it and everything was fine. And she even gave a few testimonies here at church. We have on video of times where she had battled, but God took care of her and got her through it. She was probably the greatest.
I want to watch this one more time. We might watch this 3 times, guys, but let me point out a couple things that bother me about this. Number one, the file for divorce happened 6 months prior. Now, because in the state of South Carolina, I can't, in most states it's this way, but I can't get the divorce documents unless maybe family members who have those documents could get them to me. I looked for them, but I'm not entitled to them in South Carolina. But they had been in the middle of a divorce proceeding for 6 months, according to this article. And the first thing he said was, oh, she was the best wife ever. We talked late into the night. Doesn't this remind you of, what's her, Heather? I'm messing up. I can't remember the name. But again, another Southern pastor. I'm going to find this one. But anyway, he's talking about her like they're just the most happily married people ever. And then the second thing that bothers me about this is he brings up that she testified that she had these mental issues. She had probably ideated, and that she had shared a testimony in church, at least one from what I heard. And he points out that we have it on video. Like, we've got this on video. Like, he's looking for cover, and it's just kind of weird. So let me play this one more time.
She was probably the greatest wife anyone could ask for.
Greatest wife anyone could ask for, woman who's divorcing me for the last 6 months.
She was probably the greatest wife anyone could ask for. She was incredibly affirming. We spent every night together for hours just talking and talking and talking. She had struggled with before, and each time, helped her through it, took her to her doctor, and we got through it and everything was fine. And she even gave a few testimonies here at church. We have on video of times where she had battled, but God took care of her and got her through it.
Okay. I'm calling shenanigans on that, but okay. As the pastor claims he and his wife spent every night together for hours just talking and talking and talking, Micah Miller filed for divorce from her husband in October of 2023, according to court records viewed by the Post. The case was dismissed in February, but a few days later, J.P. Miller filed for separate support and maintenance, seeking financial support as the couple were still legally married. So from October to February, they're in this divorce. They dismissed the divorce case, and then he files for financial support from her. In April, Micah Miller also filed for separate support and maintenance with a hearing scheduled for June 5th. Her family is seeking #justice for Micah as they claim a no contact order and divorce was filed days before her death, according to the Robesonian, which again, that article no longer exists on that website. I'm going to just verify that because I clicked on it and yeah, here it is. It's a 404 error. And man, do they pop up with that so much? Nope, the page does not exist, it says. Okay, I've tried and tried and tried. And I even searched the website to see if maybe they updated the URL or something. But anyway, so where are we? Down here just a little bit. Okay. We are devastated. Prayers appreciated. There's a lot of talk already going on, so I want to set the record straight. Our sister Micah Miller passed away yesterday. Please do not listen to false stories being shared about her. Micah Miller's sister Savannah shared on Facebook. Micah was a God-fearing, joyful woman who did not deserve the abuse she endured. So, I mean, that seems to me anyway that Micah shared it without beating around the bush, at least with her sister. If you hear anything about this from anyone other than her family, please question it. Reach out to her siblings and parents. Keep our family in your prayers. And if you have any information that needs to be shared, please contact one of us. Please respect us in this time and honor her memory with joy that she is no longer suffering. That one is kind of a weird one because according to the pastor Miller, she suffered with mental illness, but this almost reads like she's suffering from abuse, right? Micah Miller was remembered as energetic and adventurous. She met her husband in 2009, and the two were married in 2017. Let us think about this. 2024 minus 2009. You guys know I'm not good at math, so that's 15 years ago. So they met when she was 15? How old is he? How old is JP? How old? Somebody look that up. How old is John Paul Miller? Let me just look this up. How old is John Paul Miller? Give me a second here. See if I can find that. She was 30 when she died. Doesn't say. I think that he's older than her though. Okay. I'm gonna get off of that kick, but maybe you guys can figure it out. Okay. So she would have been 15. They got married in 2017, according to her obituary. Kansas native Micah was the worship leader, graphics designer, youth leader, women's ministry leader, and pastor's assistant. One of Micah Miller's final Facebook posts included her smiling and a selfie along with an eerie caption. When terrible, terrible, terrible things happen to you, y'all know what I'm talking about. RPF, resting peace face. Oh my goodness. This is sad. Yeah, Go here. That's this one right there. Okay. She is survived by her husband, siblings, and 5 stepchildren. Let's go over to her obituary real quick. We're going to just read a little bit about her. Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Micah Acacia Miller, 30 of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, passed away on Saturday, April 27th, 2024. She was born March 7th, 94, in Wichita, Kansas, a daughter of Michael Francis and Angelita Ramirez. She is survived by her husband, Pastor John Paul Miller of Myrtle Beach, stepchildren Logan Zachary, Eli Asher, and Selah, 1 brother, Nate Francis, and his wife Victoria, 4 sisters, Anna Francis, Sierra Brown and husband Matt, Abby Francis, and Destiny Barrientos and husband Nicholas. Micah was energetic, affirming, adventurous, faithful, loving, giving, forgiving, talented, joyous, creative, assertive, bold, determined, authoritative, passionate, hardworking, a risk taker, and so much more. She and JP have been friends since 2009, married in 2017, and spent almost every single day and night together, except that they were in the middle of a months-long divorce. Micah loved her little dog Loki. I imagine that dog was a troublemaker. She loved doing outdoor activities like waterfall rappelling, hiking, skydiving, running, and going to the beach. Micah would take on any challenge, even if it was being a vegan for an entire year. Micah was a great stepmother and an amazing wife and helpmate. She helped Pastor JP. Oh my goodness, why? He definitely wrote this, right? He wrote this obituary. He has to put himself in there. He helped Pastor JP with the church in every way. Micah was the worship leader, graphics designer, youth leader, women's ministry leader, and pastor's assistant. And she did all of this with the utmost, I think he meant utmost, integrity and faithfulness. Micah made the greatest of efforts to always be the best wife she could be, except you were divorcing for the last 6 months. She truly served Jesus and her husband. Oh my goodness. With all her heart, she would praise her husband after every church service, telling him he was the best preacher in the world. And then a little self-deprecation, even if it wasn't true. She also told him he was the funniest preacher in the world, even though that wasn't true either. Goodness sakes. It's like he's writing an advertisement for his church. Micah loved her family so much. She looked forward to every text from her father or brother. She sought every opportunity to pour into her sisters. There were thousands of nights that she would pray out loud for God to always bless and take care of her family. They were constantly on her mind. Micah wanted more than anything for each member of her family to serve Jesus continually. Micah loved her ice bath, nice car, sauna, house, etc. But more than anything on earth was her desire to see people come to Jesus. So I think that is the weirdest thing to say about somebody in an obituary. She loved her sauna. She loved her nice car. She loved her nice house. That is just the weirdest thing. That is like subliminally advertising, hey, this church is amazing. That's the way it feels like to me. Maybe I'm reading this wrong, but... Okay, celebration of Micah's life will be held at 3 p.m. Sunday, May 5th at Solid Rock and Market Common. The family will receive friends immediately following the service. The family has requested that memorial donations be made to Dare to Care Missions to sponsor a child in Africa, something that she was very passionate about. I've got so much here, guys. So much. Okay, so what has been happening since her death is that her family, other than her husband, this is an early photo of Micah and JP, everybody except her husband has been calling for an investigation into this. So here is one that I found on Facebook that I wanted to share with you guys. Okay. From Angela Brian Clark. I'm guessing it is a shared account of Angela and Brian Clark. I know this is long, but it is the truth. Please take time to read. Micah Miller deserves our total honesty and support. So here I sit for almost a week, mourning the death of Micah Miller, watching, waiting, and praying for answers. I have only posted on her and how I have felt about losing someone who was such a sweet soul. I miss her and am struggling to wrap my head around her being gone and the circumstances surrounding her death. By the way, I can really feel this. Like, I don't think there's anybody, certainly not me and not any of you, who have not been touched by grief, right? By having to go through the mourning process and losing whoever it is in your life. For me, I empathize with Angela having lost a close friend. So yeah, struggling. And then having to worry about the circumstances surrounding her death. She or they go on. I'm not sure who wrote this. I don't know. It's one of them. Anyway, I will not sit here and pretend that I know exactly what happened on Saturday, but I know a lot. I am well aware in the past that Micah had mental health issues, and I witnessed her struggle firsthand. But I also know that in the last few months, this has been used as a weapon to control her, which does not surprise me if this couple is going through a acrimonious divorce, right? You've got, and listen, I'm somebody who has always made my living on my ability to speak confidently in front of others. That has been probably the biggest talent that my parents gave me. And I credit it from being raised in the church where I was expected to speak and to, deliver talks and share my opinion and stuff like that. So like I am really empathizing with this crowd, right? But like, if she was being controlled during this divorce proceeding by somebody who is extremely talented at persuasive speech, somebody like a minister, a preacher, a pastor, doesn't have to be those things, but somebody who is very good at persuasive language, I can see how past issues that you may have gone through and addressed, maybe fully, maybe partially, but I can see how those can be used as a cudgel later by somebody with the talent to do that. And I don't know that he did that. I don't, but having watched some of the videos of him speaking, he is a very good public speaker. That is definitely a talent that he has. And so I would not be surprised at all if what Angela Brian Clark's Facebook account has posted, that her previous struggles were being used as a weapon against her. The Micah I saw at the beginning of her mental health journey was not the Micah I witnessed last month. When I talked to Micah last, she was making plans, moving forward and trusting God. Her faith was her shield. She had reconnected with people she had been isolated from, myself included. And that, again, guys, I'm like, ironically, preaching to the choir on this one, right? But this is something that a controlling and overly controlling, overbearing spouse might do. If you're trying to control your spouse, you might cut them off from any other support that they might get from anybody else. Okay. The Micah I was seeing was a grown woman trying to break the chains of an abusive marriage. When I talked to Micah last, she was making plans, moving forward, and trusting God. Her faith was her shield. She had reconnected with people she had been isolated from, myself included. She was sorting out her new normal, and God was putting the right people around her. When we had our first meeting in years, we sat at lunch and talked until dinner time, 5 hours. We had been in regular communication since that day. So if this is true, that just rings to me of somebody who had escaped, what would we call it? Emotional control, emotional mental control. I was part of Micah's church for years, and I think we're talking about the what was it called? Why do I have such a hard time remembering this? He is a pastor at something. Where's the church? What was the name of the church? Oh, there we are. Solid Rock at Market Common, right? So she says, I was a member of Solid Rock for years. We did life together during that season. Leaving that church was one of the hardest things Brian and I ever did. Okay, now we know it's Angela for sure. We loved the people in that church, but God had made it clear that we needed to go because it was a toxic environment. This, guys, really, really rings true to me. And it might be that I'm particularly sensitive to it. I mean, I am a devoutly active Christian. I attend church meetings at least every Sunday. And my wife and I have done that forever. Before that, I did it with my family growing up, right? But in my faith tradition, there's no such thing as a paid minister. We all accept a calling and we rotate through. So, and sometimes I've thought, because there are people that just don't have the talent. We all have different talents, right? So there have been times where in my mind I've been, man, it'd be really great to have somebody who is a paid preacher. I've thought that. I honestly have. But it just feels weird to me when there is a paid ministry. It just feels weird to me. And I know that I'm like in the minority. Most churches have paid ministry. But when we go back to his announcement, let me bring it over here.
We're not going to do all today. Instead,
let me pause this real quick. I'm going to bring up the volume. Watch how he just directs the church and they follow him.
Instead, I'm going to have you stand up and I'm going to make an announcement. And after the announcement, I'm going to ask that you leave church quietly and don't talk about the announcement here in the building, please. If you
Okay, so he's got instructions for him. I'm going to have you stand up. I'm going to give you this announcement. And after I do, I want you to zip it. No talkie-talkie. Get out of the room. Right? Now, he did it in a softer way than that, in what I might even call a more talented way, a polished way, so that people might follow him a little bit better. But he honestly was instructing. And to me, it just feels weird. And it rings true when we get back over to here, where they said, hey, I needed to go because it was a toxic environment. Okay. We endured relentless attacks from the pastor. It was unlike anything we had ever experienced. In ministry, God calls us where he needs us, and instead of supporting and loving us, our entire family came under attack. There were attempts to sabotage us in our new church home, I'm guessing after they left, right? Calls were made to employers, dropping in at my place of business in the middle of my workday when I refused to answer calls. The calls, more than I can count, emails that were rants in writing. It was a nightmare for close to a month. I would imagine that Angela Clark here has some of the evidence that her claims actually happened. I hope she does, and I hope she shares them one of these times. Okay. Micah, she continues, wasn't just leaving a church, she was leaving her marriage. She was done. She hired a lawyer. She moved out and she was getting a divorce. She was left with nothing but her faith, her family, and her small circle of friends. Was it hard? Yes. She had her tires cut multiple times. Oh my goodness. If this is true, found multiple trackers on her car, couch hopped in fear of being found, and was hospitalized by her husband when it was completely unnecessary. I am wondering if she means, the first time I read that, I thought, wow, was he physically? Did he get physically violent? But it sounds to me like he was controlling her due to mental illness. That's what it seems like to me now. She confided to me that she felt like an orphan and feared that no church would want her because of him. What she didn't know is that a large portion of us who had experienced the wrath of exiting that church were waiting for her with open arms. I talked to her. This is reminding me. I don't know if you guys know about Aaron Smith Levin. He is a person who founded first the Aftermath Foundation. Now he has a different foundation, but trying to help people who are exiting Scientology. This is not an attack on Scientology per se, but they have policies of disconnection and so forth. So there are really strong incentives to never leave Scientology. And so that foundation was set up to help people. This is what was happening here, it seems like, right? That she thought that she couldn't exit. But once she did, there were people out there waiting with open arms. Okay, Angela continues. I talked to her multiple times in her final week here on Earth. She was making plans to get her hair cut, getting help with her car payment because she was a little short after paying her divorce lawyer, and planning to meet us for the second service at church on Sunday. So she was ready to go to another church. She said in her video that she had just been worshiping Sola, but now she is not feeling all solita anymore. She's going to go to church with her friend Angela. My final text with her on Friday at 9:19 p.m. was a woman making plans to live, says Angela. What happened between Friday night and Saturday? I was so overwhelmed seeing two certain people on the news last night trying to minimize Micah by painting her mentally ill and crying like they were currently present in her life. I am guessing that is from the newscast that I previously showed. There was another person that seemed to be like a secretary or an assistant or somebody working in the church who talked about, how beautiful she was and how wonderful she was. Though, according to Angela, if that is the clip, I think it is, it wasn't the case. They weren't in the life anymore. Heather Turner. That's what it is. Heather Turner. Oh my goodness. You guys know about the Heather Turner case? Go look at my videos on Heather Turner, man. Oh, that is the name I couldn't come up with either. Okay. Presently in her life. They were not. She wasn't having a mental meltdown when the scales were lifted from her eyes and she walked away. She was a warrior wearing the full armor of God. This has been shared at least 315 times since this morning. It's probably been shared more since. So I wanted to share that little nugget with you guys. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I've missed. Oh, there was a little video I did want to show you of her. Like this is and I kept the volume off because, copyright and so forth, but this is her singing at the church. The church that I, for some reason, just can't remember. Solid Rock at Market Common. This is somebody who is a devout person. Pretty easy for a person like me to admire. Okay. Last thing I wanted to show you was this. So this is just from Facebook, and I don't know that this is real. There are a couple of photos of Pastor J.P. Miller with this woman. But what they're saying is that here's Pastor J.P. Miller out with his alleged girlfriend this week after Micah's death. So I don't know that that is necessarily true, that is his girlfriend, but let's take some comments, shall we? We've got a couple hundred comments here. By the way, do we not have the best moderators on any channel on YouTube, guys? Everybody give a thanks to Autumn and Jamie for being here. They are amazing, and I love them. Let's see. I need so many things. I'm struggling with whether or not I want to show this one, but I'm gonna. Pastor is cover for many a pervert and abusers. I think that is objectively true. I mean, we've seen plenty of cases in the last, let's say, 10 years, 12 years that have come to light where this is the case. And then there have been churches that have covered for their pastors, for their priests, and so forth, which has made it even worse. Like, please don't attend a church where that kind of cover happens. If any priest or pastor or teacher in the church where you attend, if you attend church, is abusing people, bring it to the cops quick. And I think that we now live in a society where the cops will take action. Like 10, 15 years ago, they wouldn't, but now they would. So, and leave that church. Okay. Don't go there. It certainly, and I wouldn't put these words in Candy Cane's mouth, certainly not all pastors. I would say it's a small minority of them. I think most are probably good people trying to do the best they can. But there are some abusers in there for sure. Only Me Baby sounds shady AF. Don't let him off the hook just because he's a pastor. Yep. Gotta be careful with that. In fact, I think though, and I've said this before, but cops are in the suspicion business, guys. They are suspicious people. That is part of what makes a good detective. Somebody who just kind of goes, that doesn't sound right to me. I'm going to look closer at that. So I don't think him being a pastor is going to give him any cover from the police. Heather, so glad you're covering this. I've been looking at this all day. Yeah, me too. Me too. Okay. Yeah, I gifted some memberships out there, guys. Hopefully you guys can use those. By the way, I might be incepting myself on this. Let me see if I closed that or not. Yeah, I closed it. But I really appreciate folks who are members of my channel. You can join the channel using the button below on a desktop. There's also a button on Android. On iOS, they make it a little harder. You have to do it on your like a desktop. But thank you to all of my members who are here. Yeah, Anna Pikarski says self-induced. That was an interesting choice of words for sure. Let's see. Anna says, thank you, Gavin. She needs to be given back some dignity and love. I really do hope that. So, and I'm going to withhold my judgment on this. I'm just simply going to say this is suspicious to me. It's really suspicious. This is the kind of behavior that I'm seeing here is reminiscent of the behavior of Chris Watts, of Scott Peterson. Those are the two that I always bring up because they're just so obvious. But this is the kind of behavior that where they just don't know how to naturally act, and so they do things that they think is natural or they think are natural, but they just aren't, and it's just off. Going to church and preaching for an hour, giving no indication that your wife is now dead, and then making an announcement at the end is weird. The normal thing that anybody would do is skip it. Have an assistant or an associate pastor or some other leader lead the services that day, because you should be in mourning. Even if you are divorcing that person, the loss of somebody who you at one time deeply cared about should be enough to cause enough grief where you're not doing that. And that is just weird. It's just suspicious. And then the fact that he, from the pulpit, said self-induced, on the news said self-induced, and she's had problems with this in the past. This is it's just so many red flags. JYD says she looks way too classy for him, and she is a beautiful, beautiful woman. This is another photo of her that was taken not long before she died. Let's see. Marcia says, what is wrong with people these days? To use God to hide behind is just so disgusting. Where is Preacher Man's first wife that gave him the 5 kids? I don't know the story. There are people on TikTok and on YouTube that are reporting things that I haven't been able to confirm. So I'm just not going to report those things. But she was his second wife. She did not have children of her own. She was a stepmom to the 5 kids. I don't know where the first wife is. I am suspicious that with her being 15 when they met, I feel like there is an age gap there. I don't know. I just feel like there's a weird age gap there. AC is good. You be measured because I'm extremely upset and disgusted. Yeah, I'm trying my hardest to just pull it back here a little bit. Is he being investigated? Was there life insurance policy on her? And then he continued, does he have a mistress? So I don't know any of those things. I don't know that anybody has talked about any of those things. The one thing that people have talked about is there is an alleged girlfriend. However, I like to maybe just extend a little grace here to Pastor JP. In the Christian faith, I think it's fair to say there is a pressure for the appearance of happy nuclear family. And so it would not surprise me that during a divorce proceeding that a pastor would start looking for the next Mrs. Pastor. That's it. It's something that I find abhorrent, but there it is. And that's just my opinion, guys. Let's see. It's telling how she started her first video saying, I'm alive. Let's just watch that first part real quick.
Hey everybody, I just want to let you know that I'm alive and well, and life's been kind of crazy the couple past weeks,
I want to let you know
months.
Well, it is interesting that she did that. Marcia G is saying what most of us feel. Emma says she looks depressed. Let's go over to this video, and I think this is a valid comment.
So today my heart's a little heavy. I've had a lot of women that have reached out to me about situations of abuse.
Okay, she describes being heavy.
I want to tell you what a lot of people have told me
Or
lately.
Emma to characterize that as a depressed look. She does seem that way. That's a good observation. Curious Cat, even though she was known to everyone in the congregation, he only referred to her as his wife, not by her name. What an interesting observation. That is a good observation. There's only one person in my life that I have ever known that when referring to her husband, specifically talking to me, would never call him by name. She would always say, my husband this, my husband that, right? Only one person that I've ever known has been that way. I I mean, it's not that I never. I mean, sometimes I just want to give her some anonymity, so I will say it on YouTube. I will say, my wife, blah 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 blah. Um, and then sometimes I will say my wife when I'm trying to make it clear to people, hey, I'm happily married. That I mean, now that I'm old, I don't have to worry about that all that much. But early on, especially somebody I just don't like. I don't like jewelry, so I don't wear jewelry. But I've been happily married for over 24 years. Um, so, but to people like in church, I wouldn't say my wife. I would say Kimberly. Talking with friends, I would not say, I was talking to my wife the other day, and she said, I would say, I was talking to Kimberly the other day, or Kimberly told me this. So I think Curious Cat, that is weird that he only referred to her as his wife. Like he couldn't say Micah. Micah is dead. He couldn't say that. Wow. Yeah, it's a new day. I'm glad I'm covering it too. I think I will keep my eye on this one for sure. Let's see. The way he skips the altar call, the way he tells people what to do and how to react. Yeah. 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 Her claim to be forced to take illegal drugs was very specific. I have no idea what those illegal drugs might have been, but yeah, she was pretty clear about that one. In fact, she kind of made a face too, right? Thanks, McRambleon. Okay, I will keep the video. I will not talk over the video. Thanks for letting me know. Let's see. AC says the entire sermon joking, laughing, and talking about how great he was and charming. Yeah, I watched some of it. It just wasn't my cup of tea, but I think that's a pretty good characterization. All right, I'm going to skip down a little bit. Otherwise, we'll be here for hours and hours. Let's see. A. Heineman says she met him in his church group while he was married to his first wife with 5 kids. He was 28. She was about 14. I mean, that's my suspicion, that there's a huge age gap. It's just kind of, I mean, that's common. It's common to have an age gap, but I don't know. It just smells, right? Jennifer Dobbins. Jennifer, I don't recognize you here. Welcome if you're new. I'm not an expert or a forensic psychiatrist, but his whimpering words do not seem sincere, and he just doesn't appear innocent. I'm trying to be nice. Well, you're doing a good job. McRambleon says the controlled narrative is continuing. Let's see. I'm just going to keep on. Beautiful. Gotcha. I don't know what the husband was going for in that obituary, but it sounds like she had a lot she looked forward to, was not likely to do this to herself. Yeah, that obituary was really weird. Speak Life Garden Homestead and Permaculture. That is a very, very specific handle. Red flags all over her obituary. I agree, especially him praising himself in her voice. Yeah, and then the whole self-deprecating thing. This is weird. Jennifer, oh, that obituary. The husband reminds me of Barry Morphew, supposedly great out in public, yet psycho in private. I wonder. What's also sad is that many people like her will be pressured to or choose to use faith and pastoral counseling in lieu of proper mental health care and or psychiatric advice and treatment. Yes, you should, if you're having mental health issues, you should find treatment any way you can get it. Don't just go to, go to the church, but don't just go to the church. I think McRambleon, that's really good. That's the purpose of a church, is to be together and to care for one another, right? but hopefully your pastor will refer you to a good psychiatrist. DB says, can you imagine not allowing the congregation to grieve someone who had served them for years, literally ordering them to immediately leave the church without talking? Cold as ice. And that is way better stated than what I said, DB. Very well done. Yeah. No gossiping about him on the way out the door. Exactly. It's just so tough. Sorry, I'm not going to get to all of your comments, guys. I really, really deeply appreciate you being here. But let's see. Yeah, we've got a lot of people here today. We're grateful to those of you who have made it here for the first time. This is the kind of channel that I have. We do live streams all the time on cases that are in the public attention. We also do deep dives into cases that need a little longer look. If you're interested in the kind of stuff that I do, just please head on over to gavinfish.com, click on cases, and you can see the cases that I cover. Also, if you click on support and scroll down to the bottom, you can buy my mods a coffee, which I would deeply appreciate it. Thank you guys for supporting my mods. They do this volunteer. They volunteer for this, do it for free. They do it on their own time, and I deeply appreciate all the mods. Also, this little fishy up here, go ahead and click on that and head on over to the Fish Tank, which is a little group here on Facebook where we all talk about true crime and the cases that we care about. So please head on over there and join. Looks like we're coming up on 600 members over there. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining me on a Saturday. I want to give you a little heads up that in the coming week, this coming week is the week of the celebration of our daughter's nuptials. And so I am going to be pretty ocupado with all that. I don't want to overstate my responsibility in this. Obviously, it is my wife who has done all of the work, my wife, Kimberly. But there are things that I am responsible for. Mostly I am her gopher, her driver, her go-getter, and support crew. So in the coming week, there likely will be fewer live streams, but don't take that as a Gavin is giving up or Gavin is in trouble or there's a problem here. It is Gavin is participating in the happy event of our daughter's marriage to our wonderful son-in-law. So just wanted to give you that heads up. And then hopefully we will see each other soon, but don't worry if it's not all that soon, okay? Please like and subscribe if you like this stuff, and I will see you on the next one. Take care, guys. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you liked what you saw, please consider subscribing. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below.